Okay guys, so today we are going to be working on our chronological order nonfiction text structure. You can also call this a sequence nonfiction text structure. And remember that nonfiction text structure just means how authors organize information in a nonfiction text. Now, the chronological text structure describes events in order, or it explains the steps. That means that you have to follow something in order to complete it or to do something. The text may be organized in two ways. First is the sequence of events. Events are presented in a chronological order. They come in chrono, time, logic, order. Or it's organized in how to. The text is organized in a series of directions in the order in which they should be completed. Remember, information will be presented from beginning to end, and it may include dates. So if you see some dates, keep your eyes open. Now, some good signal words are going to be first, next, then, finally. Also, we can add second. You could say third. You could say meanwhile. You could say at last. Now, I want you guys to pause this and doodle 3 events in order from your day so far. So what have you done so far today? Let me know. Doodle me a picture. Maybe you woke up, brushed your teeth, got on the school bus, and have come to class. So go ahead and pause it. Complete your doodles. 1, 2, and 3. Unpause it and let's move on to the next page. On this page, I want you to either write a comic strip with the title here and ordered 1, 2, 3, 4 events of Jack and Jill, or Humpty Dumpty. Remember, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. You can do that story, or you can do Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty. All the king's horses and all the king's men tried to put Humpty Dumpty together again, but alas, they couldn't. So write your story and go from there. So now go ahead and complete your drawings in whatever order you see fit. Once you are done, unpause it, and let's move on to the next slide. Now, let's read this together and fill in the words. For those of you who kept your 3 strips, the 1 with the words and the 2 with the numbers, go ahead and throw those strips away because you are going to be writing the words now. Follow along as I read and fill in the words. At a dinner in France in 1865, a group of Frenchmen discussed their desire to celebrate freedom in the United States. They wanted to create a statue for the United States. Before they could do anything, they needed a sculptor. Fortunately, they found Frederick Auguste Bartholdi to help them turn their dream into a reality. First, Bartholdi created a design of a statue of a woman holding a torch with a burning light of freedom. Then he worked to construct the statue in France. Meanwhile, construction of the pedestal that the statue would stand on began in the United States. After the statue was assembled in France, it was disassembled and shipped to the United States. At last, the statue arrived at Bedloe's Island in the United States. However, the pedestal for the statue was not complete. When the pedestal was finished in 1886, the statue was reassembled on October 28th, 1880. Finally, on October 28th, 1886, the Statue of Liberty was unveiled. So, take a minute, fill these words in, and move on to the next slide. Pause if you need to. So right now, oops, sorry there guys. I want you to pause this, think of an order in your head, and then come back and check and make sure you and I have the agreeing numbers. So 1. Before gathering the ingredients for the cake, preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. 2. While your oven is preheating, gather your dry ingredients: flour, salt, baking powder, and your wet ingredients: butter, sugar, eggs, and vanilla. 3. First beat the butter and sugar until fluffy and light. 4. Then add the eggs one at a time to the butter and sugar mixture. 5. Next, slowly add in the dry ingredients to the combined wet ingredients. 6. When the ingredients are mixed, pour the batter into cake pans and bake for 25 minutes. 7. After the cake has cooled, add icing and enjoy. So let's go ahead and look at some sequencing words, some signal words. Here's then, there's when, here's before, there's after, first, while, and next. Now let's come up with a good title for this. I think How to Bake a Cake is a good title because this sequence informational text is telling us the directions for how to bake a cake. Now let's go ahead, pause if you need to finish filling stuff in, and move on to the next slide. Once again, go ahead and pause, come up with your sequence of events, and then come back to check and see if yours agree with mine. Okay, that's my dog saying hi, guys, if you can hear him. So now that we are back, let me make this legible. Okay, so let's start with 1. The life cycle of a honeybee begins when a queen bee lays an egg in a wax cell. 2. Next, the egg hatches after 9 to 10 days. 3. Once the egg hatches in the wax cell, worker bees find the larva. 4. Soon, the larva reaches full growth. 5. Then, the workers seal the full-grown larva into the cell with wax. 6. While sealed in the wax cell, the larva spins a cocoon and changes into a pupa. 7. Finally, after 21 days, the adult bee leaves the cell. So as you can see, I have highlighted some good signal words. You go ahead and highlight those. Now, as you are highlighting them, think about a good title for this text. And I'll write mine. I think The Life Cycle of a Honeybee is a good title. Go ahead and complete your notations on this page and then advance to the next slide. Okay, so now we're on the notes page. And maybe you have notes on the bottom or listening on the top. It doesn't matter. Just follow along with what I'm telling you and fill in these notes under your flap. Now we're going to do the note-taking one. The first notations that I want you to take is take important notes on the most important, and this says ideas. The second one is don't try to write everything down. And lastly, you need to write abbreviate words and phrases. So go ahead and pause. Complete this under the note-taking tips, and then lift up your listening tips flap. Okay, so under listening tips, your 3 points will be listen for main ideas, note dates and events, and pay attention to, that's a 2, repeated words or phrases. So go ahead and take these 3 points down, pause if you need to, and advance to the next page. Okay, so on this page, you are going to fill in the notes that I have written. So go ahead and pause and get prepared, and then when you come back, all the notes will magically have appeared. Okay, so lift up your 1923 flap, and underneath it write Doane Robinson came up with the idea for the Mount Rushmore Memorial in 1923. Pause if you need to, and then play it back so you can hear the next section. Under 1924 flap, write sculptor Gutzon Borglum had a new design with 4 presidents. Pause to write this sentence and then play back. Under 1927 flap, write on October 4th, 1927, the sculptor and his crew started carving the memorial. Under the 1931 flap, write they encountered a problem with Thomas Jefferson. Remember, you can always pause if you need to and complete the sentence. Under 1933, write the carvers began preparing the rock to the left of Washington for Thomas Jefferson. Pause and complete the sentence. Under 1941, write the monument was finished. Under today, write the memorial is visited by nearly 3 million people a year. Pause, complete your writings, and advance to the next page. On this page, I'm going to read the text about Ludwig van Beethoven, and you're going to follow along. As I'm reading, I'm going to highlight and mark up some important pieces of text. Ludwig van Beethoven was a famous composer. Many people considered him to be the greatest composer of all time. He was born in Bonn in 1970 in Bonn, Germany. His first piano lessons began when he was just 4 years old. That would be 1774. His father taught him how to play. On March 26, 1778, he had his first public recital. By the time Beethoven was 12 years old, or 1782, he was earning a living for his family by playing the organ. When Beethoven was 17, in 1787, he traveled to Vienna, Austria. While in Vienna, he played for Mozart. In 1792, he moved to Vienna to study with Haydn, another famous musician. Beethoven lived in Vienna for the rest of his life. He dedicated his life to musical study. Ludwig van Beethoven made his public debut in Vienna on March 29, 1795. Shortly thereafter, he published a series of 3. Next page. Piano trios. These were very well received and provided Beethoven with financial success. Around 1778, Beethoven started going deaf. Initially, he had trouble hearing people speak. Eventually, he could not hear his own music. By 1820, he was completely deaf. However, he continued to compose music even after he was deaf. Ludwig van Beethoven is considered one of the greatest musical geniuses of all times. Now, what I want you to do is, magically, in a second, this graphic organizer is going to be filled with text. You're going to come back, you're going to fill it in, and as I read. Okay, so now here we are back. We will see that first, Mr. Beethoven was born in Bonn, Germany in 1770. Then, in 1774, he begins piano lessons. 1778, his first public recital. 1782, he begins earning money for his family. 1787, traveled to Vienna. 1792, moves to Vienna. 1793, makes public debut. 1798, begins to go deaf. And 1820, continues to compose while deaf. Pause this, fill in all of your notes, and then advance to the next page. This is your book, and in this book is a how-to for writing an informational sequence text. This first page, the tips would be, when writing an informational sequence text, write in a clear manner and be sure that steps are written in the correct order. There are many different topics. Remember, I told you that you do not have to write. So what you're going to do is follow along. You're going to copy what I copy, and we're not really going to write a paragraph, but we're going to learn the process to writing a paragraph. So choose an activity or skill, and what I'm going to choose is how to grow tomatoes. And 2, we're going to write the topic sentence. And I'm going to write one and you're going to copy it. Tomatoes are popular garden vegetables that are easy to grow. So copy these down and advance to the next page. So we're going to come up with 8 steps to growing tomatoes. So, step 1 is pick a good spot in your garden. Step 2 is dig a hole. Step 3 is place some fertilizer in the hole. Step 4 is place some tomato seeds in the hole. Step 5 is cover the hole up. Step 6 is add water. Step 7 is fertilize. And continue to water. And step 8 is enjoy. Okay, now that you are done, with that page, advance to the next one. And if you have to pause, go ahead and pause. So the materials that we're going to need is a shovel, seeds, fertilizer, water. Okay, so you need shovel, seeds, fertilizer, water, and if you can think of anything else, go ahead and add to 4. On 5, some good signal words are first, second, next, last, third, finally. Go ahead, finish this, and then after you are done, after you have completed taking all of your notes, I want you to go ahead, close your notebook, get your How to Train Your Puppy Not to Jump worksheet, listen to the lesson, and complete that. When you are done with your How to Train Your Puppy worksheet, turn it into the sub.